Welcome to this experience that I had in 2012, the unforgettable experience, the amateur radio expedition to the island of Malpelo. Let's ask ourselves something. Have you ever felt completely isolated from the world? In this year 2012, I had a great experience thanks to a great amateur radio friend, Jorge Prieto from Barranquilla, a radio amateur who lasted 4 years organizing this Malpelo 2012 expedition. For those who do not know much about this, bad hair. The previous expedition to the 2012 one was in 1990. I also had the opportunity to be on that expedition. That 90 expedition was spectacular, also sponsored by the Amateur Radio League. But if you realize from 1990 to 2012, there were 22 years. That is, after 22 years, it was done. The next expedition, and from now in 2025, already 13 years have passed since this feat, and no one has tried it again. Pedro Orozco, was part of that adventure as a radio operator, and I was a telegraph operator, that modality that is whistles and stripes. And not only did we reach one of the most inaccessible islands in Colombia, but we broke a world record. We broadcast from a lonely rock where there are only soldiers of the National Navy of Colombia. We leave every one of our cities, many arrive in Bogota. Many traveled directly, but we all had to meet in Buenaventura to catch the bar from there in Buenaventura. There we met the rest of the team. In Buenaventura, there were Germans, Argentines, Brazilians, Canadians, North Americans, and of course, we, the Colombians. It was a multicultural group, a large group. It was a group of a lot of adult people, a multicultural group, and we were all united by one passion, extreme radio fiction. So that you have more or less information, Malpelo is a volcanic island located 500 kilometers off the Colombian coast in the Pacific Ocean. No beaches, no trees, no water, just fog. Wind, sharp stones, it's volcanic pumice style, so it's quite corrugated and full of cliffs. It is a protected natural sanctuary. The government protects it a lot, and it is a hostile place for human beings. Getting there is not easy. Getting there is complicated. The Pacific Ocean is different from the Atlantic. The waves are long, the movement is constant. That is a back and forth, but quite deep when the boat gets into the wave. Let's put it this way, many got dizzy on the boat, but the Americans took some injections so that we did not vomit. No, some vomited. We even endured a long time because we knew that what was coming was unique. And when the sun begins to rise, that impression is quite pleasant to see, Mal. But appearing on the horizon is a spectacle that very few have experienced. Let's talk about something quite interesting, the disembarkation. Disembarkation is a high-risk operation. You can only get in Zodiac the images you are seeing there when we get off the bar and go towards La Pluma only. Can you go in Zodiac? You must put on a harness in the middle of the sea. The sea is quite rough and prevent the boat from crashing against the rock. So the operation is to get to the Zodiac. The rock is right there, but the guy who manipulates the engine always has to be leaning back and forward so that the sodium doesn't hit the rock. Quite a dangerous maneuver, but we survive her. Then comes the climb with equipment, power plants, groceries, antennas. We all climb the rock with all that equipment on top until we reach the point where the military facilities are. And national parks. I have already been on 2 Malpelo expeditions, and I can say that I am one of the few in the world. One of the few in the world who have lived this experience of going to that distant Colombian island of Malpelo as an amateur radio. Already when we arrived at the base, we found something incredible. We were received by the group of radio amateurs who had arrived a month earlier to prepare everything. It turns out that 4 ham radios left Colombia to install everything in Malpelo a month earlier. I mean, they passed, I think. If I'm not wrong, New Year and Christmas in Malpelo, putting together the stations so that when the ham radio arrived, everything would be ready. Those friends and brothers that I love so much, do we call them or baptize them the Fantastic Four? Thanks to them, we had the station set up. But we went further. We decided to set up one last extra station on the top of the island. To get up there, you have to climb as if you were a mountain climber and raise the equipment to the top of the island. But it was necessary. Why was it necessary? Why was it necessary? Because the Japanese, who are big sponsors of ham radio expeditions, need the contact, and for us to be able to communicate with Japan, we had to raise the antennas to the flake from the island so that the signal transmits with greater power and we receive the Asian stations with greater intensity. And that is why the station was placed up there. For us, it was a success because we achieved thousands of contacts with Japanese stations. Many ask me, hey Pedro, is it worth all the effort just to talk on the radio? And I always respond, very cool, because radio connects what is separated, because the magic of silence between two signals is still sacred. It wasn't just an expedition, friends. It was a symbol of bravery, of brotherhood, of what we radio amateurs are capable of doing for our passion. I am Pedro Claver Orozco. I was at Malpel. I was one of the operators who took Colombia to the top of world broadcasting. If you like this story, follow me because I still have more adventures from the air to tell. Thank you. Bye.